My topic is juveniles who commit violent crimes should be tried as adults. A juvenile is a kid or teen under the age of 18. And if they commit a crime, then they do not get tried as an adult. Every year, the FBI arrests more than 33,000 young adults under the age of 18 for different offenses. 10% of those 33,000 are teens that have committed a homicide. In 2003, the number of juvenile murder offenses increased 30%, according to the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention. For this reason and many others, I am for charging juveniles who commit a violent crime such as murder or assault or robbery or something along those lines as adults. The trend began in the 1990s when virtually every state expanded the rules under which juvenile offenders could be charged as adults, meaning if they did murder somebody, then they would be tried as an adult instead of as a teenager. In the words of one Get Tough advocate, juvenile offenders are criminals who happen to be young, not children who happen to be criminals. Meaning that if they do cause a crime that in standards others would go for life in prison for, they should also be treated the same. The end result of a terrible crime remains the same no matter who commits it. Our justice system depends upon holding perpetrators responsible for their actions. We can't just let a 17-year-old slide who has murdered somebody like a week later, somebody that's 24 could go to prison for life because they murdered somebody. It's the same thing. They knew what they were getting into, so they should be treated and tried the same. The harsh sentencing acts as a deterrent to kids who are considering these crimes. If their friend went to jail for life because he murdered somebody and their friend thought that they would murder somebody as well, they may be leaned in a different direction rather than also going to murder somebody. They may not, because they don't want to end up with their life in prison. Light sentences don't teach kids the lessons they need to learn. If you commit a terrible crime, you should spend a considerable part of your life in jail. You shouldn't be just because you're 17 or however old or young you are, you shouldn't be able to just escape spending a long time in prison just because of your age. Kids today are generally more sophisticated than they have been. They play video games that they kill people, and at very young ages they play those, and they understand that if they went out and really killed somebody, that there would be a lot of consequences they would have to face, because they can't just get away with killing somebody and not facing any time. It's kind of crazy to argue that a modern child who sees the effects of violence around him in the news every day doesn't understand what killing really is. They understand that if they kill somebody, that they would have to spend time behind bars because they took somebody's life, so they should have to suffer the consequences for that. The fact that child killers they know how to shoot a gun is an indicator that they should understand exactly what they're doing. If a child can use a gun and ends up killing somebody, then they know that they have to suffer for the consequences of killing somebody. You can't just kill somebody and get away with it, like I said a few times. Basically, a crime is a crime no matter what, and if you do something to hurt somebody else, then you should face time, because it's not fair for you to be able to get away with it just because of your age. A lot of people disagree with that. They feel that if you're young, you can make a mistake, and you should be able to get around that, when I think that is not the case. Many people feel that the juvenile prison system can help turn kids' lives around, which I disagree with. Some research stated that many kids that spend a few years in a juvenile detention center can and will go out and do more crimes and hurt more people. Once they've been, they're most likely to go back. So, rehabilitation, others say rehabilitation gives kids a second chance. Successful rehabilitation, many argue, is better for society in the long run than releasing someone who spent their entire young adult life in general prison population, meaning that they feel that if we help treat these kids, that it'll be better for society than if they spend life in prison. But I think that's kind of a waste of money. I think that they should spend time in prison, not just so they know that what they did was wrong, instead of just rehabilitating them and then letting them go on their way. Others say children don't have the intellectual or moral capacity to understand the consequences of their actions. Well, if they can play a violent video game, then they sure as heck know that if they kill somebody, that they have to face consequences for that. So to wrap it up, I think that any juvenile that commits a violent crime, such as murder or something along those lines, should spend a considerable amount of time behind bars so they realize what they did was wrong and they don't do it again.